Okay, welcome to another episode of Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Today we have Josh Mercer on the show. He's a director of technical services and training for Crownsmen Petroleum. Josh, we're going to cover programs, your services, do some case studies, lots to cover today. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
I got to actually meet you in person, which is a bit of a novelty these days at CIM.
Yeah, that was probably the first major show that we've participated in recently, and it was really nice to get back out there and start seeing some of these industry folks face to face again. It's been a long time coming, so our team was just super excited to be there.
You know, we're doing this remotely, so I'm not trying to knock our business model or anything like that. But I found very quickly at the live events how the conversation would go more places quicker, because I do find when you're doing these cameras, you kind of get to it much quicker. But in person, you kind of got a chance to like walk through, even in a 5-minute conversation, you just cover more ground because you're seeing people's, body movements and facial expressions. It's just such a different thing when you haven't done it for a couple of years.
Sure. It's amazing how much this technology has advanced over the last couple of years and how much easier it is to do this, and certainly how it's changed our business. But I think much just to kind of reinforce what you're saying there, it also became very clear to us early on in this process that these types of remote interactions are no replacement for face-to-face. So
yeah, I'm a big proponent of both. Let's jump into. Can you just give us that outline of who Star West is? Just sort of scope and sort of what your focus is?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So Crownsmen Petroleum, first and foremost, is an independently owned and operated company out of British Columbia, head office in Prince George, British Columbia, that supplies fuel and lubricants in Western Canada. So we are a British Columbia company, as I noted, but we deal in BC, the Yukon Territory, the Northwest Territories, and Alberta as well. So that's kind of our scope. In terms of being a fuel distributor, we are independent, which gives us a great deal of flexibility, but we are a sizable organization here in British Columbia. We've been at this for a long time. Star West as an entity for 10 years. We're actually celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year, but our group has been at it much longer than that. Lots of these folks have been together in one form or another for the last 30 years. So just a lot of experience in we'll call it the hydrocarbons business. My focus is more specifically on the lubricant side, though I do provide some technical services and support for fuel as well, especially equipment related. We're the top tier lubricants distributor for Western Canada for Phillips 66 lubricants. That's our primary brand that we bring to market. Phillips 66 is a major player in the oil business in North America. Full service oil company, upstream, midstream, downstream operations, and we are the largest Phillips 66 distributor in the Pacific Northwest. So we're very proud of that, especially being on this side of the border. We also do bring some specialty products to market as well, specific to the mining industry. Some industrial lubricants from Summit, and also Petron Corporation, who specializes in shovel lubricants, open gear lubricants for crushing and grinding operations, that kind of thing.
So can you, with that sort of suite, then are you able to? I want to get into the sort of the service side of your business. Are you able to, like, if you go to, let's say, a mine site, is it pretty much top to bottom on their lubricants supply needs?
Absolutely. Yeah, both fixed plant. So we talked about the crushing and grinding circuits and some of the specialty products we offer there. Of course, some of that stuff is also available through our primary Phillips 66 line, but also for all the heavy duty mobile equipment needs as well. So, and Phillips 66 actually holds a huge volume of business in hard rock mining in North America. So we've just got a ton of experience to lean on and products that are really focused on the mining industry specifically.
Okay, so let's take a moment to thank our sponsors. And first up, we've got Savona Equipment. Savona Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit them at savonaequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. Next up, we have Fuller Bros. Fuller Brothers Inc. has over 59 years of tire industry experience as the world's leader in providing non-hazardous, non-toxic products that reduce tire management costs for a diverse range of customers. The acknowledged formula developers of the globally recognized Tire Life. Fuller Brothers also produces other quality products such as PSF Plus, PSF Lubes Tire Cream, Dripless Tire Paint, Omega Tire Repair System, as well as select tire service tools and tire painting equipment. For more information, you can visit them at fullerbros.com or by calling toll-free at 1-800-547-7785. Fuller Brothers, we have the inside covered. We also have General Kinematics. Revolutionize the way you think about screening with General Kinematics STM Screen 2-mass vibratory screen. Using General Kinematics proven 2-mass technology, this innovative screen is capable of handling increased capacities by up to 40%. With 2-mass natural frequency, load surges are no longer a problem. The load-responsive design increases retention time, working the material longer, which increases screening efficiency. All these features combine to provide the most efficient, long-lasting, and lowest cost of ownership screen in the industry. General Kinematics STM Screen, screen smarter. Visit them at generalkinematics.com to learn more. We also have Power Zone. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas, pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with Power Zone. Visit them at powerzone.com. And last but not least, we have OptiSeis. OptiSeis is a leading-edge geophysical acquisition design and software company. OptiSeis provides innovative seismic survey designs utilizing the latest field technology and optimizing for advanced processing and quantitative interpretation techniques. OptiSeis' mission is to bring sustainable exploration solutions to energy development with their custom land footprint reduction technology, EcoSeis. EcoSeis enables operators to focus on reducing their environmental and greenhouse gas footprint while imaging all their subsurface targets and reducing costs. Visit them at optiseis.com to learn more.
Is there something that sort of stands out about the brand, the Phillips 66 product line that sort of has been able to penetrate the market in that way?
Well, I mean, it's just a lot of these partnerships with different mining companies, especially down south, that go back a long ways. And as I say, every major manufacturer of lubricants kind of the lines are pretty similar.
Yeah.
Some more extensive than others, certainly, and there are some that will particularly focus on a category. And I would say that Phillips 66 throughout its history, at least, the last 30, 40, 50 years, has really focused on that mining segment. So in terms of providing top quality lubricants with OE approvals for heavy mobile equipment like the Caterpillars, the Komatsus, the Hitachis, the Deeres of the world, we've focused on making sure that we've provided, robust formulations specifically designed for all of that equipment.
So just clarification, because I want to get into the site support that you do, because that's such a key part in the auditing and things like that. So when you're sort of building out a lubrication plan for a site like a major operation like a mine, would a Phillips 66 be involved in that, or is that all on you, all the information, or is there some collaboration with them?
Oh, yeah, no, that's a great question. Listen, we get an absolute ton of support from the folks at Phillips 66 Lubricants down south. That can include many things, from training support, be it through online platforms like our Lubricants Academy, That can be in-person training support. You know, at least once or twice a year, we have folks come up, like our West Region lubricants engineer from Phillips 66, and do a bit of a lubrication fundamentals training tour where we hit all of our mining customers and make sure that we get them included in that. And then, you know, leaning on our research and developments team down in Bartlesville as well, which is where our primary laboratories are
just
for
looking
Phillips
at their
66.
picture. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got state-of-the-art facilities down there, so we can do an awful lot of stuff and get just phenomenal support from that team, whether it's on like custom formulations. And, you know, like we've got some of this stuff going on right now where, you know, especially the further you go north, you know, the more specialty products you may need to be able to operate in those climate extremes, right? So we get a tremendous amount of support from the Phillips 66 lubricants team.
Yeah, they in that same area, what is it? It's just Bartlesville. How do you say it?
Bartlesville, yeah, Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Yeah.
They've got a big R&D campus and a school. And what's that set up? I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on in Bartlesville. A lot of it is laboratory lubricants testing. We've also got our technical support hotline for Phillips 66 lubricants that operates out of there. The technical training department operates out of there. Mike Strassel and his team. You know, product formulation, specialty product formulation. You know, really the sky is the limit for what we're able to achieve down there. We've got all the equipment to run the different ASTM test methods to ensure that our products are all exceeding expectations for specification and that kind of stuff. So I've had the opportunity to be down there once. I'll actually be back on site in Bartlesville in November of this year, just kind of getting to know a few of the new faces and participating in an industrial lubricants training program with one of the junior fellows that's coming up within the Star West organization now. So
I wanted to circle back to, I was talking about, you know, being like live at CIM, and it strikes me while you were kind of going through this, like a brand like Phillips 66 and Star West, and you're dealing with these, I mean, major mining operators. With everything that's gone on and sort of this new work from home format, and now people are sort of back to live events and sort of integrating, has it given, how to ask this question? I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, companies like a Phillips 66 have so much going on behind the scenes, but it's just when you're sort of forced into this narrow of, you have to get someone on site. Has it sort of opened up your ability in the last couple of years to sort of communicate capabilities, present different options without having to physically go through this thing of, okay, I was on site last week, now I got to come back on site, and has it opened up opportunities to be able to communicate like a full scope of a brand that you represent?
I think so, to a certain extent. Although I do need to say that throughout these last several years, where, you know, a lot of travel has been impacted, certainly, and site visits have been shut down, and we've had to go online in order to communicate a lot of these things. And you know, maybe that's a regular quarterly review or whatever. You know, there's so many things that just can't happen without being on site, and so our technical team, myself specifically, I consider myself to be one of the lucky ones over the last few years that really was perhaps less impacted than some other folks in the industry because of the critical nature of the work that we do on site, right? I mean, I can't show up. I can't do a thermal inspection of a gear set to ensure that, you know, the lubricant we have in application is performing adequately without being there with my FLIR camera to do so, right? I can't do that online. I can't provide that feedback online. So there have been, with most of our mining partners here in this part of the world, a little bit more, they've been a little bit more willing to continue having the technical team on site, of course, with all the precautions that, you know, that other critical personnel in that operation needed to take. So anyway, yeah, I've been lucky to be able to get to site throughout these last couple of years.
No, and it's, and you know, and that's why sometimes I ask these questions that I genuinely, I don't have an assumption on the answer, because it's good to get that sort of clarity. And then I want to pivot now into that site support. Can you kind of paint a picture of maybe what you're doing, but also what your technical team is doing when they're doing these site visits?
Yeah, sure. So it can be any number of things. We could be working on the onboarding and delivery process for an oil analysis program, right? And whether that's transition from a previous laboratory to our program, helping with logistics, getting samples off site quicker. It can be conducting the thermal mill gear inspections that I just noted, shovel inspections, again, ensuring that our lubricants are performing as anticipated. It can be working directly with reliability personnel on oil drain extension interval projects, filter carts, you name it, grabbing retain samples to ensure chain of custody transfer points and cleanliness of product at the point of delivery. It can be, storage and handling audits on particular segments, whether it's like crushing and conveying as an example within the scope of a mine operation. So there are really a ton of things that we do when we're on site. And I mean, that I haven't even touched really on that training portion, because we like to provide that in person as well. Although, training has been one piece that we can deliver remotely a little more easily. However, there's challenges with that too.
Right.
If I want to get all the PM technicians and service technicians and oilers and those folks on a mine site involved in a particular training session, you're not liable to get them in front of a computer screen necessarily and get that same kind of interaction. So it's nice to be able to get back to doing some of that stuff in person too.
When you're doing the training, at the end of the day, you come on, you set up a whole program, and then now, like the people doing it, are these the mechanics? Like, how much training would it require? I mean, you just went through some of the equipment on a mining operations, and you probably spent more times on mine sites than I have, but just if you start doing an audit of everything, I can just imagine what that list is like. So does someone have to have some sort of certification before they can, or are you training people at all levels of the company? That it seems like quite an undertaking with all the parts and pieces in an operating mine.
I would say it's all levels, Jared, like grassroots type stuff. The better, the guys driving the lube truck on site and the PM and service techs that are working on the equipment, the better they understand lubricants, the more apt they are to care about making sure that they get the appropriate lubricant into the appropriate reservoir and they're on application. You know what I mean? Like, so starting from the ground up and explaining, why just putting something slippery in that reservoir is not good enough and what the potential impacts could be down the line. It's everybody. And then, that moves up to, we've had superintendents on the mine site taking part in a lot of our training as well, whether that's, providing the thermography training, like not necessarily so that they'll do it, but so that they'll understand some of the processes that we're undertaking and what goes into the reports that we're providing on site. And I mean, we'll have mill maintenance superintendents sitting in on that, certainly with storage and handling audits and segment specific hydrocarbon audits on site. That's the stuff that a reliability engineer, a maintenance general foreman, a maintenance planning and reliability superintendent, that's the stuff that they want to know from their end, how they can help to improve processes as well, and then drill that down through their own organization. So
when you're doing an audit, can you go through the basics of what it would include? But also I was wondering, if an operator is structured their team, are you going to have different, is it similar people that you're going to be talking to, but from what you're saying, you could also be going on one site and these are the people you're training, but you go to the next site and it's could be a different set of skill sets of the next group that's going to be implementing the plan. Is that right?
100%, 100%. And it depends on what we're doing on any particular site. You know,
Right.
we may not have every bit of business on a particular site because, let's say, for example, you know, we're working specifically with folks on the fixed plant side. So crushing and grinding. We've got all the open gear lubricants on the mill gear. So we're primarily concerned with the crushing and grinding aspects of that operation. Then we're going to deal with a particular set of folks. Whereas, you know, there's that differentiation where if you've got both sides of the coin, you're dealing with both mobile maintenance and or fixed plant. You know, you're almost doing it in two separate trips, or you may combine it into one extended trip, but you're certainly working with many different groups on site. And then include projects teams and stuff like that. As you know, we've been involved in consulting on new fuel facilities, new lubrication facilities, adding diesel exhaust fluid systems as, you know, more equipment gets added to site that's tier 4 final and requires DEF, right?
What does that mean?
So tier 4 final is simply an equipment designation. It's really the age of the equipment, right?
Okay.
Like any modern equipment that's being added at this point, typically, if it's new coming out of the factory, is what we would call tier 4 final, and that means, you know, for a mine site that they're going to require diesel exhaust fluid as part of the emissions control and reduction strategy on site.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, my sisters were telling about that in their new trucks that they love.
Totally. Yeah, it's on highway too, right? So that's the same thing, except that for so long, especially with older equipment, we do see older equipment operating on mine sites. It's not all necessarily there yet, right?
Right.
Like it doesn't have those systems in place, but new equipment that's getting added to fleets most certainly does. So, you know, you see that growth within that area as well, which has all sorts of repercussions from.
So you're also part
standpoint.
of your so your audit program is still, you also got to identify the different, essentially these different tiers of vehicles as well then.
Oh, totally. And I mean, equipment lists are something that we do a ton of work on, right? And it constantly requires adjustments because, you know, there's so many different things you can do. We can come in and do a lubricants assessment, get the equipment list, make sure it's up to date, provide fluid recommendations for every compartment on each piece of equipment. Take that one step further, you're looking at consolidation projects to try and make sure that you're minimizing the number of lubricants that they have on site. And there's so many reasons we would do that, right? You can get a little carried away on that end too, and we've seen that before. But yeah, it's really a lot of the same principles apply, no matter, you know, what kind of project we're undertaking on here. And we can draw a lot of it back again to kind of tie this diesel exhaust fluid thing back in, is how is the product getting there? How is it being dispensed? How are we keeping it clean?
Yeah.
And notice that I emphasize that one because it doesn't matter whether it's fuel, it's lubricants, it's diesel exhaust fluid. How are we keeping that product clean and making sure it gets to the right place?
Right.
So a lot of the work that we do in the background is designed to help our mining partners do just that.
Do you think, and this is, I've said it a few times on the show, this is not the Made in America question. It's because I think that only takes you so far. If you don't have the quality and the service and the expertise, none of that doesn't matter. But with that said, do you think it's a real advantage being in BC, in Prince George? Like, I hear that you're in Prince George and it's a different level of interest than if you're, you know, from you know, some in the US somewhere, or even from Eastern Canada. It's like, okay, you're in PG. You're in that environment, which is a different environment than if you're down in Vancouver. It's just different. The harsh climate. Do you think that makes a difference to the customers, and sort of a sort of maybe even a first look that we'd like to work with you if possible because you are here?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the short version of that answer. Absolutely, it makes a difference, and for multiple reasons. It just, and you kind of hit on this. It means that we know how to operate here, right? Like, we're not from some far off place. I know where Vanderhoof is, and I know where Smithers is, and I spend lots of time there. And
Yeah.
we know those highways. We know how to get around. Closures in highways that may be weather related, or snow or mud comes down on a highway. Well, how about some contingency planning that's going to take
Right.
us around another route and make sure we can still deliver our product? Like, having that homegrown knowledge of the territory that you operate in is like, it's huge. It's huge. Plus,
Well,
Prince
because in
George is,
mining, right, they talk so much about I mean, I don't know how many times I've heard on the show and not talking about this discussion, just coming up in the conversation, that how unique each mine site is. It's especially in Canadian mine sites, and it's something you just can't avoid in mining. It will always be the challenge. And so to have that local presence, it's hard to beat.
yeah, I mean, 100%. It can't really be, it can't really be replaced. And in a lot of cases, it can be hard to plan for these guys, and things come up. It's not
Yeah.
just weather that might interrupt the supply chain, right? There's so many things, and we've seen them all over the last few years here. Having that intimate knowledge and experience working with different operations, whether it's an underground mining operation, an open pit mining operation, or just even within those two categories, folks that are processing differently, because it doesn't happen the same on each site. The more you work with these guys in this part of the world, the more you know. Plus, honestly, it also helps because then you're set up to work in particular climates, right? Like, we bring in bulk rail products that are specific to the hard rock mining segment in northern British Columbia and the territories, right? Full synthetics designed for operating in climate extremes. So, you may not get that out of somebody who's not set up to operate in the north. So
I wanted to just quickly touch on, because I want to get into case study stuff. Can you give me a bit of, and we've touched on it, you touched on it at the very beginning, but just before we get into a little bit more stuff, can you give, because you're doing the fuel delivery service and that sort of the whole scope of what you're doing? Because I was seeing something, I was reading something in the notes, like Barry Beecroft fuel distributors. And there's actually a whole list of things. So I wanted to sort of clarify what that side of the business is.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing us back to that. So Barry Beecroft Fuel Distributors is actually where I kind of cut my teeth first in this business. Oddly enough, that you brought them up. I spent 12 years with Barry Beecroft.
Oh.
But they are one of our distribution partners that help to extend our reach into different parts of BC and the West, right? So British Columbia is an awfully big place. I know, because I'll quite often drive from 45 minutes south of or north of the US border to the Yukon border and back, right? And around that Circle Highway up north. You can't do that without having great partners in different parts of the world, whether it be that, Barry Beecroft and the team there, or they're in the South Okanagan, Similkameen. Over on Vancouver Island, we've got Crownsmen Petroleum. In the Kootenay, we've got Benson Oil. In the Northeast, we've got Armor Lubricants that operates out of the Peace region, right? So we work with regional partners to ensure that our products, those Phillips 66 products, are available no matter where you are in BC.
Just to kind of start to tie it all together, could you give us like maybe a sort of a case study of a project that sort of stands out to you, that just sort of encompasses not just the product line, but just sort of the service that goes into it?
Sure. So we undertook what I'll call a life extension program, or a life extension project with with our partners at Newcrest Red Chris mine several years ago. And specifically what we were focused on was trying to extend the life of spider bushings in their primary gyratory crusher. They were hitting the condemning limit for wear a little quicker than we would have liked to see on kind of the standard multi-purpose grease product that is commonly used in that application, not just by us, but it's the recommended product typically. So couple of things. This is where our specialty product line with Petron and that relationship really came into play, because the experts that they have on staff have literally designed products that change the game on protecting components like that. And in particular, I'm talking about a product called spider bushing crusher lubricant. And rather than being a multi-purpose grease, it's more of an ultra high viscosity lubricant product that allows it to kind of get into the tight clearance spaces and better protect the bushing. So long story short, we put a trial in place for that product at Red Chris mine. And what we realized very quickly was, bushings that were kind of reaching their condemning limit early, let's say after about a 6-month period, we're getting extended out to like 3 years. Let's say the condemning limit, for argument's sake, is 40 thou wear. Well, over that same period, the wear reduction on that particular bushing went from 40 thou to 6 thou. That's a pretty significant reduction that can push it out to 5 or 6 times. And these are very expensive components and a very expensive project to tear down and replace that component. So I think that a typical spider bushing could be as much as $250,000 to replace. So you can imagine, you take a component with a cost attached to it like that and go from 6 months to 3 years, all of a sudden you're offering some pretty significant savings. And we couldn't do stuff like that without having not only that specialty product to offer, but the technical support to help guide us through that project. And I'd like to take credit for that, but actually, we have guys from Petron that come spend time with us up here quarterly. Chuck Straight, I can kind of call him out. Many folks in the mining industry will know that name. Like, he's the absolute guru of this stuff and spent time boots on the ground alongside the maintenance guys, taking measurements to ensure that we were on track to meet those project goals. So just another example of the kind of support that we get from our lubricants manufacturing partners in delivering results here in BC. So
and that was well, I asked that question right at the beginning, because it's one thing. We were just I kind of relate it back to our little world of production. We just bought some new equipment, and the manufacturer, there's distributors, but you can pick up the phone. This is a big organization, and you can pick up the phone and the manufacturer will walk you through. They spent an hour with me on the phone. I hadn't even bought the equipment yet.
Yeah.
And so when you're providing that level again, so you've got this localized presence, but you have this sort of these global manufacturers that are providing the technical support to your localized presence. It's a real competitive. I mean, I'm telling you something right now. I realize that.
Yeah.
But just as it's striking me, that's you've kind of got advantages on multiple fronts, which is quite a challenging thing for a business to develop.
Yeah. I mean, Star West has really, I think, differentiated themselves, or we've differentiated ourselves in this industry by taking the approach of maintaining a strong technical team here locally, right? But the lubricants industry is so much bigger than most people can really wrap their minds around. It's not nearly as simple. Trust me when I tell you, people ask me all the time, what do I do? And I'm a lubrication specialist, right? Well, a lubrication specialist, hey, you're going to have to tell me more about that, or how can you even make a career out of that? But the lubricants industry is far more complex, and getting more complex by the day as new equipment is added, or machine specifications are changing because of the pressure on original equipment manufacturers to meet emissions reduction standards,
Yeah.
and that rolling downhill to the lubricants providers to come up with lubricants that are still going to protect the vital components despite needing to achieve superior fuel economy results. And, you know, on and on we go.
And then
It's
still being able to get through the, make sure you leave the right route to get through in winter conditions.
it's a way more complicated industry than
Yeah.
folks get credit for. So a guy like me, you know, who's a lubrication specialist and dealing daily with our customers here on this end, I can't possibly know it all, and I can't possibly be an expert in every field.
Yeah.
So without that expert technical support from the folks at Petron, from the folks at Summit, from the folks at Phillips 66 Lubricants, I wouldn't be able to do my job. So we really do value those partnerships and feel like it's something that helps to set us apart and honestly just deliver superior service to our customers. So
yeah, I mean, you must be quite an expert though, because I got this 2023, you got TLT magazine, you're a technical editor there. So,
yeah.
so somebody's trusting what you're saying.
Well, and you know, I don't want to overinflate that. There's more than one technical editor, and
I hope so.
Yeah. So it's a team effort, and I was certainly super proud to get the opportunity to do some of that, and it certainly felt like some recognition for the work that I and the team at Star West have been doing within this within this particular segment. But yeah, you know, and the learning is ongoing. That's the part that never stops. Even as I went through the process here over the last couple of days, renewing some of my certifications, you go, okay, wow, geez, I have done a lot of this continued education stuff on the lube side over the last 3 years. So
could you see somebody that has really good technical expertise that can still get people on board because they've got the right company, or those people skills? How much have you had to develop those, or how much of it was just sort of naturally there? Because I saw you at CIM talking to people. I mean, you've got very, very high people skills. How much does that help you out, or is a lot of what you're bringing that technical? That's a fair question.
Oh, it's totally a fair question. And I think I personally came to the table with a lot of those people skills, as you noted. That's always been kind of something that has just come to me somewhat naturally. The part for me that I've really had to continue to work on is the technical side, to be fair. And so now, as we flesh out the rest of the team, you know, I'm kind of looking for those key pieces that perhaps complement our team at Star West, or fill the gaps that perhaps are not my strengths. And that's really what it's all about, right? Is the team. So I guess to answer your question, the relationship development side of the technical support game, I'll call it, is huge, and it has paid dividends for us, whether it's through a contract renewal process, whether it's picking up new business out of the blue, because people move around in the mining business, and you get a maintenance superintendent that goes from mine A to mine B, and all of a sudden your phone's ringing because they go, hey, I worked with Josh
from
and
a
his
guy
team.
from Mark C, and then they build a team from 5 different mines, and all of a sudden you realize you've had interactions with 4 of these people.
100%. That's been super eye-opening for me, Jared. Like, coming into this particular piece of the business 3 years ago, for me, I had no idea. And it just goes to show you how important it is to really make sure you're taking care of your customers, because who you're dealing with today on a particular mine site, you may not be dealing with tomorrow. And you better hope that you've done right by them, and that they take that information, they take that reputation with them to the next stop.
You know, when you're doing these audits and providing like onboarding programs and that, and going back to those people skills, does it ever strike you how you'll, in a relationship, a lot of times there'll be I'll find 2 or 3 moments, sometimes it's just one, where you give them the answer and it's just, you set it the right way, in the right tone, at the right time, and it's like it solidifies the relationship. It's like, okay, we got through this little this little wall that maybe would have put this, maybe the business still would have happened, but it just wouldn't be that sort of firm relationship that you can have with somebody. Do you sort of notice that as well? Those little standout things where it's like, okay, this is the hiccup that we have to, if we can get over this, now we've got something.
You just basically outlined a day in the life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's problem solving is what we do. And I'd be lying to say if, there are certain days when you're like, oh, I just can't have another headache today, or
I know.
or whatever. But ultimately, those types of opportunities present themselves on the daily, and there are any number of things where you're like, okay, let's put our heads together, let's get the team together, and that can be a couple of different folks: reliability personnel on mine site, maintenance superintendent, okay, technical and contract manager on our end of the business, plus maybe we're involving the inventory team at one of our warehouses and saying, okay guys, let's put our heads together and get after this. When you can find that solution, not only is it super satisfying, it is that moment that you discussed, right? It is that moment where you're like, we just put our money where our mouth was, when we made these commitments or we made these promises during a contracting process. We just delivered on one of those promises, and now I can sleep at night knowing that these guys recognize that, and we've had plenty of examples of that. And I hope that our customers would go to bat for us and say, yeah, what Star West says they'll do, they do.
Well, it certainly seems that, obviously I don't operate a mine, so I haven't been on that side of it, but just the way that your team handles things and the efficiency of even preparing this show. I was wondering though, just sort of last question for you personally. I know I've got it in me that, some days I look at the problems as the opportunities, and this is genuine. I'm not pretending to. I see, oh, we've got this issue. If we can figure this out, now we have an edge in the industry. So this is good because we know everybody else is having this problem. We just need to be the ones that can figure it out. But it is a mindset. Is that a natural thing for you? I have to work on it. I have to actually like I listen to Norm Macdonald on the way to work. So I just chill out a little bit and actually think through problems, things like that. Is it natural for you, or do you have to sort of make conscious decisions to look at these challenges as opportunities?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, like I said before, sometimes that can be difficult. Sometimes it's hard to look at a problem as an opportunity, just because, working in this business, there's a lot of stuff that comes up.
A lot.
But but as you said, and, just to kind of take it back to a specific circumstance, that spider bushing crusher lubricant project, that was a solution to a difficult problem that realized immediate and significant savings for the customer. And you take something like that, which is a huge victory for everyone involved. It's a big victory for the mine site. It's certainly a big victory for us. It's a big victory for the product manufacturer. You can put that on paper and take that experience to the next place and say, hey guys, you may not have even realized that this problem exists for you. Let's talk about this. And I know you've got another lubricants manufacturer. I know you're under contract with so-and-so, but have a look at this particular product. And we don't even need to talk about the rest of it, but let's look at something that maybe we can help you resolve, or we can put money back in your pocket, or whatever. So those moments kind of make it all worthwhile. Jared, right? And it's just tough to remember them sometimes when you're in the thick of it.
And the reason I asked that, because you did say about, sometimes you have to remind yourself, and the reason I asked the question is because someone like you comes on, you and I, again, seeing at the show, you're quite positive, and you're obviously very good with people. And I sometimes just want to let people in the audience know, like someone like me, that I will struggle maybe more so than you. You might struggle a little more with it than someone else. Some people just, they naturally don't look at a problem and go, oh, this is wonderful. Some people just seem to be better at it, but it is something you can train yourself to do. And it's such an important thing to give yourself any edge, especially in you're competing. I know some of the companies in your space. I mean, they've been on the show. they, you have serious competition, and if you want to compete at a high level, you have to approach things like that.
We do, and it's a constant process. And really, in this big sea of fuel and lubricants providers, in a lot of ways, we are still the little guy, right? We're the little guy, but with big world experience and big guys prepared to back us and really supporting us behind the scenes. But I actually do want to talk a little bit more about what you're saying. Some days for me personally, that can be very difficult. And so I work on it personally a great deal. Some of this has only happened, even over the last 6 months to a year, whereas time dragged on over the last couple of years. We all coped with things differently at different times.
Yeah.
And really, personal development is something that is hugely important to me, because if I'm not at my best, then I'm not able to provide good service to my customers. I'm not able to provide support for my peers, my colleagues, my family, right? So I think it's hugely important what you just brought up, is that we really do have to continue to take care of ourselves so that we can continue to operate in this world as we do in business as well. Because if one falls apart, we might be able to, fake it for a certain amount of time, but ultimately, if you're not looking after it, on this end, you're not going to be able to continue down the road. So that's key. And I do have to kind of, I guess, toot the Star West horn a little bit again, because our particular group, and perhaps it is again because we are that homegrown, family-oriented type outfit. We just get tremendous support for whatever it is that we need when we need it. I've worked for different outfits throughout my career, and they're second to none in making sure that their employees get looked after. So,
you know what? That's I want to just quickly say that struck me when you said that when you are, a small family operation, or you're a big company but on a localized level, or all these different sort of areas. I mean, there's so many different types of companies, but when you have sort of that family feel and that localized, I think that's the key. That if you can deliver, then you get support. Then you get real support. I mean, we've experienced it. We're a tiny little company, but we've kind of hung in there long enough, hopefully treated people well enough, that now the mining industry is supporting us and backing us, because and they don't think we're some huge media corporation. They know we're small, but if we're willing to take care of them, then they will get behind us. And it's just having that ability to do it, to then get that backing.
Word of mouth travels pretty fast.
in this industry. It's Josh, thanks for being on the show. I mean, again, a lot of the guests that have come on, I haven't got a chance to meet in person, so it was kind of a unique thing to actually get to meet you before we got on the show and just sort of see the vibe of not just you but your team and sort of the excitement your team brought. It was really exciting. I hope this is not the last interview we do. I genuinely mean that, and that we can keep working together with you. And congratulations on all your success, and also the success of Star West, because you're really doing some great things as a company.
Thank you very much, Jared. Really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and chat with you. And I just want to echo what you said. And it was great to meet you and the team there at CIM as well. And look forward to doing this again in the future.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching that episode. We're going to have plenty of links to Star West Petroleum on places you can follow them on LinkedIn, and of course directly to their website, and you can check out their brands, and we'll have links to the brands that they represent as well. Lots that we covered today. Thank you for watching, everybody, and I want to and I say it every show, but thank you to all the people that are suggesting guests to us. It's just really rounding out the show. The mining industry is so multidimensional that we can't even begin to cover it all. So with your help, we're getting just more and more pieces, putting it together. So thank you for that. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.